Are you ready to dive into the final leg of our shark pumpkin adventure and journey? Well, today's the day. So, we have started with a photo, to a tracing, to a pumpkin, and yep, we're creating artwork now. To go back a little bit, I did not film it, but it's just a photo of show what I did for my process. I wanted to take a reflective photo of the pumpkin lit. Now, I don't have a mirror that was big enough to put the pumpkin on with it being super awkward of trying to take a photo, but I do have another glass top desk that we use. So we bought one of the cheap black foam boards at Dollar Tree and put it underneath the table, waited for it to get dark, added some fairy lights to the pumpkin, and then just maneuvered around and got the best option we wanted for the angle that I wanted to paint. Now, I'll tell you, I took probably about 25 different photos because I couldn't figure out how much I wanted to show of the reflection versus the pumpkin itself. So, really, it's up to you on how you want to go about doing it. You can just use my photo if you'd like, but if you decide to carve this and do it for yourself, play around with it because you may want a side angle or a over the top photo where you're getting more glass reflection versus the pumpkin itself. That's the beauty of creating, is that you can go anywhere with this idea. So, going back to where I am, with this photo, I did Photoshop a little bit of it just to make the black really black and contrasted. And I went through and just Photoshopped out the string lights. So all I'm getting is the yellow. One thing though I noticed is that I had done a project by Lacree Fine Arts where she did a really cool jack-o'-lantern. She's my inspiration behind this piece of my learning how to create light. And it was just so cool that I'm like, you know what? I want to do that with my own photo. So with it, with the differences I saw was definitely between a fake and a real pumpkin that she used, is that you get that depth of where the light is casting through the pumpkin. I didn't quite get that with this because this pumpkin isn't as thick, so it just kind of looks like it's orange and yellow and has a few shadows, not as in depth as you would be able to get with a real pumpkin. So even though this didn't come out exactly the jack-o'-lantern look that I was kind of going for, I'm extremely happy with it. It looks like the photo. I know what it is. And it just was a cool process to go through all of this with you guys. So I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. But just know we can take this up so many more levels in the future. This is the absolute beginning. And I really look forward to you joining me along the way and seeing what we can do. So, with that said, let's jump into this next project. This off, I've actually cut my tracing paper the exact size of the inside of my mat because the mat is not true 5 by 7. Make sure you trace it to fit perfectly. Otherwise, when you're doing this in Photoshop where you're zooming in and out of the photo to get it to fit perfectly in, you might actually chop off the top or bottom, which really doesn't matter in this photo, but it does when it comes to doing animal portraits. Believe you me, I have messed up so many times. If you want a more in-depth lesson, make sure you go back to my video collection where I go all the way through how to create a tracing in Photoshop to make all of your creations easier, whether it's a tracing for the pumpkin or for artwork. Now here I'm just going back and forth, making sure that I have all the lines that I want to, so I know where I want to follow along to match my reference photo. Now I am actually doing this with the Sorel, I believe it's called, wax transfer paper. I am using the carbon paper, which will give like the grayish look, but in the pack it also comes in white, yellow, red, and blue. So you can do the tracing on multiple different colored papers and still give the outline that you need. I'm using a very fine hand and checking to see to make sure that it is actually transferring the paper over. I'm using a fine tip stylus and I just keep going back and forth to see if I've missed any lines because I really just don't want to have to go back over it. And I leave it taped to my project to make sure that if I miss anything, I can just flip it back over, put the transfer paper over it, and then keep going with my project. I am doing this on the Canson My Tense black paper, which has two different sides, but I am using the smooth side. Now I'm using the Pan Pastel set of 20. The collection used to be called Pure Colors, and I have purchased actually the palette tray that it goes in just to keep everything organized and nice and easy to get to. With it, I am just doing my base colors to start off with it. Lacree always said layer till it looks good, and that's exactly what we're going to do. It's going to look kind of shady in the very beginning, but we're just going to keep layering and layering with the Pan Pastels colored pencils, and then I'll go back to the pastels to give out those nice smooth finishing touches to really look like a reflection in the photo. With this, the first color I'm using is just orange. And then you'll notice that I will tap it very slightly. And then I'm rubbing some of it onto a Viva paper towel. Make sure you use Viva because it is not going to leave any kind of texture, and it'll actually be as smooth if you need to put it onto a project to wipe anything off. I apologize for my camera just jumping there. I didn't realize my computer wasn't recording at the time, and well, I just kept going. So all I did there was I just used the orange color for the base, and then I went through and did the highlighted areas with called dairy dairy light yellow, I believe. It's PY83 if you need the pigment number, and the orange was PO62, by the way. I'm doing the white, brilliant titanium white, I believe is what it is called in this kit. And then I'm also doing the black just to be the deep shadows that is cutting in between the pumpkin and the glass reflection. Now, the reason I did white is because anytime you use black paper, if you want anything to come out bright, use white first. Haha, see what I did there? It rhymed. So, this way, when you put yellow on top of it, it's really going to be showing and pronounced. The yellow would still be very brilliant and beautiful on black paper, but the white just makes it pop even more. So anything that you want bright, use white first. You got that? All right. So here we go. With it, I'm just fast forwarding through it because all I'm doing is just filling in areas. I continuously am doing different tips of the pan pastel. They actually come completely with all of these different handled and tips to use. So you can use the triangle or the square or anything they have. And also, I bought a really cheap makeup set on Amazon where I can just brush around the edges to get the fineness I need and then go back through. When you saw me actually tap it, when I left the camera there for a second, I was just dumping it into my trash can to get rid of any excess powders. Now, here I am using Spectrafix Fixative. This one actually I love because it's already the aerosol spray can, so it sprays a lot more evenly and it's safe to use around animals, which I make sure Zygmunt is never around when I'm doing it because I want to make sure it's 100% safe. But I've never had any problems, coughing or anything after I've used it. Now you see how saturated and glossy that is? It's amazing to me how much just using the heat tool, it all completely dries. And there's been times where I've had areas where it looks like it's stained, just keep going back and forth over it. And if it did, you can actually take a clean pastel brush, wipe over it, and then go back over the heat gun again. But you see there, all that glossiness is gone except for the shine that I actually want. Now, with the fixative, it's doing exactly that. It's fixing it to the paper so that when you start layering, it's not going to budge. It may smudge a little bit, but it's not going to drastically like you would if it was still fresh powder from the pan pastels. Now, with it, I'm using the Derwent Lightfast pencils. That 10 scares the crap out of me, so that's why I did a really quick, hey, here's Lightfast, and let's get into it. I love these pencils, and that artwork is freaking amazing that is on the cover of it, but it creeps me out. I always got to put it away whenever I use it. Now, yes, I could actually purchase, a professional color pencil storage set, but at this point, I'm just keeping everything in the tin. Now, I'm flipping between colors, and all I am doing is trying to match as close as I can to the reference photo. First, I went in and I believe I was using banana, and then I went in and used the Mars orange, and I'm just going through again, looking at the reference photo. Where are my darks? Where are my lights? And then just keep filling in. I extremely fast forwarded this because it is a little boring to watch in live view of it, but it's just going in and filling it in. Now, you may be wondering, why did I put the pastel on the bottom? If I didn't, this would probably take 2 to 3 to 5 to maybe even 10 times longer. This gives the pencil something to adhere to, and anything that possibly doesn't get covered, the pastel is behind there. So honestly, it's giving the pumpkin a little bit more of a textured look because the pencil is on top of it. Now, if I'm doing more of pet portraits, I just keep layering, layering, layering. You almost won't even see the pan pastel when I'm done, but it's there and made my life so much easier. So I didn't have to keep doing it with pencil because this hurts my hand and my back and my neck a lot more. The little piece of paper that you see on the side was just a strip of excess paper that I had cut. So I use that scrap paper to use instead of just you know, doing a swatch of the color, I write out what the name is. So I can easily go back and reference it if I had to walk away. like I did here. As you can see, everything, the dynamic just changed. I had to take a short break, but I did leave all my pencils there. And with it, I have all of my colors wrote down in the order that I was using them the most and what that I found I liked. But honestly, I just kept going back and forth. And even if I did pick up a color I didn't like, I just go over it again. It's not that huge of a deal. Um, Pencils and pastels are very easy to correct. You can also use an eraser. I have one that you'll see coming in here in a little bit that is I gotta find the name of it. But it's basically a pencil eraser and has a brush at the end. So you can just use it. It'll go all the way back down to the bare course that you need of the paper itself. And then you just wipe it away with a little brush. So easy peasy corrections. Now here I am just going through and adding even more highlights, and you'll see me going back and forth between three different pencils. The reason I'm doing this is to make those highlights of the seams come out more. You want to do a dark line, then you want to do a semi-dark and then the light. That way it's making those seams pop. Otherwise, if we just do one line of light, it's just going to look like a line. It's not going to look like it has the depth that you need. And see of all those areas, I just went through again, following the reference photo of getting it extra shadowing underneath the bottom fins. And here I'm using a blender pencil to go through and blend those lines a little easier of any areas that looked like it was a little bit sketchy. My blender pencil was a little more duller, and I should have just taken the time to fix it, but I didn't. And you can actually see in the finished piece where I went over with the markings, and I'm pissed off at myself for doing it because if I had taken the time, you wouldn't see the scratch marks. When it's flat, you don't see it. It's great. It photographed beautifully afterwards, too. However, when you move it in any kind of light, you see it. So just make sure that all of your tools are sharpened and going to be the best for you so you don't regret it in the long run. Now, here I am just going through and I'm adding basically my base light shining through on the reflection. I use a lot of the blender here. If you see right there under it, that's not white or yellow. A little bit of it is, but a lot of that is that freaking blender pencil I didn't have sharp. And so it just kind of etched out the black paper. Now, with the reflection, you want to remember it's not the exact shape. It has to be jaggedy and give it that effect. All in all, this entire process that I just did with the pencil was kind of a complete waste of time because you'll see how fast I knock it out with the pastels after. Originally, I didn't know how far I wanted to go with it. So I thought, okay, I'll just use pencils. And I was learning myself as I'm going of what works easiest for me. Now, here I'm flipping the paper back over and marking how far I need to take that reflection out. Because if we would put this into the mat, then it could have black edges. So I want to make sure I extend past those marks that I just created. So if you notice, look how far I am on that right side. I'm like, oh, I'm good. I got that whole edge. I'm good. Nope. We're going to add a lot more to it. So this honestly, adding the pencil effect, you could skip, but it does kind of give a cool grainy look. So if you're reflecting on glass, it's not going to look perfect. It is going to have, you know, essence of if it, I don't know behind it. Hopefully you guys are going along with me there, but that's just the whole process. Oh, there's my eraser pencil. So you see, I'm going through because I went a little too far, and I want to make sure this whole area is black. And so I just went to the eraser, used my brush, flaked it off, and look, it's back to black paper. I could go over it with just the pan pastel, but it wouldn't have adhered as well as I wanted. So here I'm bringing in the pan pastel to get that really nice dark effect. Yeah, see now how you can see all those little edges where I did the blender? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's okay. It's all right. The piece doesn't have to be perfect. It makes it look like it's more aged glass this way, right? Now, with the pan pastels, you want to make sure, I don't know if I'm repeating myself with it, but just make sure that you tap it after you go over it. Just imagine it basically as, for me, it was like my mom's old rouge or whatever you want to call it, to the makeup to put on your cheeks. And it's that powderiness that you always watched her dab it, tap it, and then brush it either on a towel or just lightly did it on her face just to give that nice soft texture. With it, again, always use Viva paper towels because that way you have a smooth um, finish to it and it's not going to waste a lot of your pastels when you go into rubbing any of it off with it. I apologize for my freckled arm coming across the camera there. My paper towel, for some reason, oddly, was over there in the corner versus to my right. But I'm just going back and forth between my colors here and trying to figure out where I need my darks, where I need my lights. Again, looking at that reference photo because you think you know what it is when you go into it, but then you look up at the photo, it's like, oh crap, that should have been lighter, that should have been darker. And I'm using the exact same colors that I did before, which was the orange, that weird, well, let me look at it again, dairy lied yellow, um, the yellow oxide, white, and black. That's the only ones I used in the pan pastels for this entire project. And again, just you can mix in with them within them or just put them to the side, whatever works easiest for you. But I'm just lightly going around everything, getting that smooth line. It just takes the most, littlest of effort to go through and just smooth it on out with it. Now, see here, I decided, you know what? I need to make this light from the pumpkin actually go down also. I have no orange. That's what I'm going through right now is mixing is orange. And this one I can definitely tell you that I probably mixed with the black or I just kept um, really trying to tone it down so that way it wasn't the brilliant orange color. That's one bad thing I will apologize is that I'm still learning how to film and video. And when I'm doing a project, I'm just in it. I forget to talk during it. So I'm trying to do voiceovers of the lesson, but then I kind of forget what I did from the lesson. So I apologize. And I thank you guys for your patience with me as I get into this. And this is going to get better and better from here on out because I'm going to learn along the way. And if there's anything that you guys would like to do or see in the future, please comment because I want to be here for you and make the most creative things that we can. Like, I definitely learned make sure everything is in the camera versus off the camera right now. But honestly, this part really doesn't matter because I think I go through later on and do more black because the light didn't need to go up that far to begin with. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Now, here, you're going to watch and wonder why do I keep going over it? But I'm trying to get the most reflective look that I can. So I'm going to go over the orange with more of a light yellow. I'm going to go over the black with it because, like, see over here, it's making it look like it's going further off onto the table now. But then I'm going to come back in and take that black and go right around the edges just to make sure that it's that fine look that I want. But if I don't put it in now, it ain't going to get put in. So it's really just playing with it and just pulling the colors where you like them and making the look that you feel reaches the reference photo most aesthetically as you can. And I got to say, I actually had the most fun doing the reflection because it's kind of mesmerizing to see how light goes out and to see how different you can make things look with light. Like I said in the beginning, have fun photographing it. Take it from every different angle until you find something that you think is cool enough to want to recreate in a painting or project. Which, by the way, comment below what do you call this project? It's not a painting because we're not painting with acrylic or watercolors or oil. We're using pencils and pan pastels. But this isn't a coloring. This is far more than a coloring page. And I don't want to call it mixed media, which I guess it's technically what it is, but that just seems to me more like you put the newspapers and craft stuff on it. So I'm just curious, what do you guys call it? Um, I'm gonna stick with it's a painting, but it's not. So let me know what you think. And here's where I was talking about going along with that black. I'm looking at my reference photo to see where does the light stop and then make it angled to do it. So you see how much just that black makes a huge impact, but I would not have that without the light first. You have to have light in the darkness. And, there will always be darkness. We're not going to go into that kind of deep Bob Ross lesson right now, but think about it. You can always find light in that darkness. And so here I'm going under and just getting those final shadows again of where the pumpkin is touching the glass to make it look like, right where the light is coming off of. Just that little bit of detail with that black made such a huge impact. And now I've decided that I want a little bit more shadowing and lines where the seams are in the reflection. So I'm just taking the pencil again and going right along with it. Now, I've not sprayed it again yet with the fixative because I just didn't feel that it needed it. If it spread or happened to move at all, not that big of a deal because the pastel that I've put on it is very light right now at the moment. And if it does happen to move, it's okay because it's the reflection part. It's not a part that I want to make sure stays permanent. And again, I'm just going through with I want to say this is wheat pencil color and going through and just kind of making a little bit more of the highlighted areas around the seams. And the colors that I used that I went back and forth with were Flame, Persian, Mars, Banana, Amber Gold, Burnt Sienna, Champagne, and Wheat, if you're just curious. I honestly don't know which ones I used, but that just gives you the variety, and that way you can play with it yourself on the paper to find out what you feel is going to match the best. Because it does not have to be perfectly the right color. If you don't have these colors, not a big issue. If all you have is orange and yellow crayons and white, go for it. There's nothing, you don't have to have the materials I have. I mean, yeah, the pan pastels are going to come in handy, but you can order a littler set and mix it yourself. Now, here I decided that I didn't have enough orange when I looked at the reference photo, that I wanted to really put the edges of the pumpkin in it. So when you see me pause, that's all I'm doing is looking at that reference photo, really studying where does it go, because as a reflection, it's going far out with light. It's not going to be perfectly round, but I want to keep the basic shape of it. And just to make it pop a little bit too more with the color, especially around the seams. You're probably like, she's done. Oh, no. Oh, see, there's a mistake. So that one was a little bit brighter of a yellow than I wanted it to be. I probably should have used the actual tool to smudge it out, but my finger worked just as well for the moment, even though technically the oils of the paper should not, the oils of your fingers should not be on the paper because it can affect layering it. But at this point, I'm at the very end of it. It's just my own project. It's fine the way it is. But normally use a tool or a paper towel to have smudged it. But that's the great thing about the pastels too, is that if it come out that bright, I mean, you saw how bright that was, just a little bit of smudging it and it toned it right down. And then you notice I turned my tool to the side to get less of the color and just, you know, basically got the coloration I wanted it to be versus just such a bright, brilliant line. And again, I'm going back through with that black, noticing that I didn't like where the shadow was there. I want to make sure it's definitely defined, giving it more of that light I need, or darkness, or to show the light more. I don't know. But I hope that you find pan pastels and pencils as mesmerizing as I do. It just shocks me of how far you can go with it and just by mixing colors. The reason I'm holding this up is because I wanted to, the colors, or my lighting was kind of off, and I want to make sure I was getting that orange where I needed it to go. And there we go. That is my final piece that I decided on. And with it, I want to make sure that it fits in the mat perfectly. And I want to figure out where I want to sign at. Do I want more of the top showing? Do I want more of the bottom? And just framing it out with it. It doesn't matter that I have excess paper because we're going to cut it off. So here I find out where I think my signature is going to look the best on. You want to do this with any project you're doing because that way when you go to mat it later on, you're not losing your signature and have to go back and redo it. And so, voila, it is finished project. Now, here comes the fun. The tape is the hardest sometimes to peel off. So, a little tip I can give you is to use the heat gun to get the adhesive to basically reactivate. Now, see here, it starts to pull, and you do not want any of that paper to tear more. So, I just take the heat gun and go over it slightly, go over all the tape to make sure it's reactivated, and then I pull it again. And make sure that you always pull away from the artwork. Otherwise, if you pull towards it, it could rip and just tear up everything that you just created. Yes, the edges don't matter that much, but if you accidentally cut a paper too small or your project just isn't the right size it was supposed to be, that edge can make a huge difference when you go to frame it. And so here I thought I would show you guys the entire process that I go to when it comes to matting a project. I use the uh, craft. My goodness, we're not dealing with cheese. My eyes just looked at yellow and thought it was. Don't mind me. Anyway, I am using Scotch brand. I believe it's called the Artisan Tape. I will actually put a link in it because the only place I've been able to find it lately has been Michael's, because Amazon has been really out of it, or they're like triple the cost of it right now. But with it, it is safe to use with photos and with artwork. It's archival, so you'll never have to worry about it yellowing or staining anything in the long run. Now, I put my 4 pieces on the front of the mat, and then I peel it away, and this way I can see exactly where I want to line it up. I used to put the tape on my photo or my artwork and then try to line it, and my God, it was a bitch to do. Excuse my language. So this way I can just take the mat perfectly, put it over the artwork, press it down. And then here I have just using a simple pair of scissors, holding the artwork back a little bit, cutting away the excess, and see now it fits perfectly. Now I repeat the tapes again. You peel it off, and then this way the artwork and the top mat will now stick to the bottom board. And then I just tap it to make sure it's completely level, feeling the edges to make sure they're lined up. And then I see, there we go. Make sure, because even that little bit of it can make a difference. And then I press it all the way down. And you have a nice, firm, sealed piece of artwork that will be protected from now on and ready to frame. So I hope you guys enjoyed this process and you'll try it along with me. Please share any artwork that you've created. And thanks for diving along with me. Oh, I almost forgot. Let's actually look at what the pumpkin is to the project. So here's our inspiration. Here's our final piece. What you guys think, huh?